Top of the morning, guys. So in this video we are going to be sliding in a sea of Sephiroth story lore. I'm going to be going into just how significantly I think Sephiroth is getting changed in the upcoming remake, postulating over what I think the pros and cons of that could be, as well as what I hope to do, which is blow your brain noodle with new things about the silver-haired sadist that perhaps you never knew. Let's do this. Okay, so one thing that has really been sticking in my mind after playing the demo, watching the trailers, seeing and hearing more of this guy is just how much Sephiroth seems like he's getting altered, that we're going to be experiencing a new kind of villain, and that they really could be redefining how he plays his role in the story. I get why Square Enix are doing it, you know, if they played it to the original's playbook, we really wouldn't see much of Sephiroth, like really not at all. For those who need a refresher or have never played FF7, Sephiroth really didn't appear, like he was so goddamn elusive. Literally, we don't actually even see him in the first part. We only kind of get vague, ominous hints that perhaps he's the one who caused the Shinra scientist massacre, and then we see, you know, he's left a deliciously plump President Shish Kebab skewer in the office. Sephiroth is very elusive, besides the calm flashback where we actually get to see what Sephiroth was once like, his downfall, his descent, which we're also now kind of seeing hints of that in the remake. The demo had a secret ending showing the flame shot, as well as other parts of the Nibelheim flashback happening now. But we're even seeing, you know, those mental trip outs that Cloud has. In the original, they were just filled with vague, ambiguous text who we really didn't know who it was, and now they're actually being used as plot devices for Cloud to go into his memory. Again, see Nibelheim, but also to see Sephiroth. And this is the interesting part of the remake, is Sephiroth, when he's there in, I guess, memory form, he knows Cloud. He actually identifies and says his name. Whereas again, going to the original, he didn't. On the first encounters with Sephiroth, the first real kind of encounter, the ship over to Costa del Sol, and yeah, he's like, who the hell are you? He doesn't know, because at this point Sephiroth's identity is kind of watered down in Genova suit. That's what was really cool about the original Sephiroth. While I can completely understand why Square Enix are taking the opportunity to change Sephiroth, you know, to introduce him, he's one of the stars of the show. Most everyone knows him, even those who haven't played FF7 know the villain Sephiroth. So I get that there was no point in trying to do it the same way as FF7 did. Why try to maintain an air of mystery when we all kind of know? And I think it's great that Square Enix are taking the opportunity to take Sephiroth in a new direction. And what is that direction exactly? Well, personally, I'm getting kind of an Advent Children-y, almost Kingdom Heartsy kind of scent about Sephiroth, because, you know, when I'm thinking about Nomura and the renditions that he's done of Sephiroth in his character since FF7, you know, and he's done a lot of them, I can't help but think that's going to influence the way that they play Sephiroth's character now. And I think that translates as intertwining Cloud and Sephiroth's characters even tighter than it was in the original. Again, it wasn't that Sephiroth didn't know Cloud, it's that he started not knowing, but then he progressively works up more and more to remembering who Cloud is. And I think that's when the more of Sephiroth's will comes into the Genova form. And he gets pretty personal eventually. Not only does he stab one waifu, you know, and then Popper takes the piss about it, dude even then starts manipulating on Tifa. I mean, he literally whips a photo at him, like, yeah man, is your old ex-best friend leaning in on your girl? Like, he gets personal. It's that really cool element of the Sephiroth and Cloud relationship, that they kind of define each other. You know, Cloud defines Sephiroth's rage, and it's actually something, you know, later on in like Kingdom Hearts, he actually pins do. And again, Advent Children, never be a memory. Yeah, that line, I'll never be a memory. All the while that Cloud's hatred and memory remains, so does Sephiroth. But then flipping that lens 360 around, it's also Sephiroth that defines Cloud. It's through Sephiroth that Cloud develops the way he develops. And this is the etymology and deep diving lore that I've recently discovered that I want to go into with you. Ironically, and I swear this is absolute coincidence, just last week, a channel I've been watching on YouTube for a while, Spirit Science, they even did a very similar topic. And it's going into Sephiroth's etymology. His name comes from Kabbalah lore, Kabbalistic. It's basically an esoteric school of thought in Jewish mysticism, and that's where the name Sephiroth comes from, or that's how we pronounce it in the West. It's Sephiroth, and in the Kabbalah there are 10 Sephiroths. the kind of 10 stages of personal development that an individual has to go through if they want to hit their most enlightened state. Some of these being understanding, wisdom, mercy, severity, splendor, victory, foundation. But what you'll notice is the top and the bottom. This is where I want to focus. At the top we have the crown, and at the bottom we have the kingdom, which are kind of the two defining points of the Ein Sof, which, remember this word, Ein Sof. It'll come up in a minute. It's another word basically for the infinite. And while I know Final Fantasy, they often use mythology or religious references just as a throwaway kind of thing. I think it goes a little bit deeper with FF7, because what I believe and where my view is different to the other YouTuber who covered it is that the kingdom is all that Sephiroth can see on this natural chart of human flow because of what's happened to Sephiroth in his life. You know, his best buds got minced big time. His dad's as deranged and nutty as they get. You know, his mum's dead and he thinks his real mum is now a galactic evil squid. He doesn't really know who he is. He's been an outcast most of his life, as well as a lab rat. Sephiroth has had a grim life, and I really hope we get to see more of that. With the new direction I think they're taking Sephiroth's character, and I'd actually like to see some relatability in there, because it definitely exists. So Sephiroth has no faith in humanity. He thinks they're a total scumbag. He's seen the worst aspects of it, and through a little bit of Genova mind manipulation, as well as his own lifetime of trauma, Sephiroth can only see the kingdom. Now, the kingdom, Malkuth, as it's called. And this is the realm of those 10 realms that is most further separated from the divine, from the original source, from all the nice, warm, squishy, wishy, good feelings, you know, that come along with our girl Aerith. He is fixated on the kingdom being the ultimate reality, basically. And in the Kabbalah, that is the reality we see around us. It's the physical world. It's the world of energy, condensed energy, manifesting in the real world as separate forms, you know, things that think they're individualized. And without awareness of the other 9 Sephiroth are disconnected from the natural harmony of things, and that's why Sephiroth is unable to see those other qualities. He doesn't have them, and that's why, again, the condensed energy, that's what Sephiroth wants to become. He wants to travel down into the kingdom and actually embody it, which is kind of ironic, really, that is Sephiroth's plan. Like, when you think about it, Sephiroth's plan was to actually make himself a giant Mako reactor, right? You're judging Shinra for being a bunch of, oh, another way to say it, dicks. Well, when he's pretty much planning to do the same thing. I'll just sit in the middle, hit it with a meteor, and suck up all them sweet, sweet life stream juices. And because of Sephiroth's messiah complex, he believes he is worthy, as well as Genova. They believe they're worthy enough to take this planet and steer it in a new direction across the cosmos, and that is very different to complete annihilation. That's the thing. Sephiroth, while he's seen as one of the most badass and malevolent of villains, he wasn't like Kefka. He wasn't about just ending everything. In his eyes, he was going to lead a wayward and fallen human race's souls into a new direction similar to what they once were, the Cetra, back when they had honor and duty and care for the planet, which, you know, we all know is Genova bullshit. And even that word Genova ties into this. Genova, again, being very similar to Jehovah, which is the Jewish name for God. It's probably that fused with Nova, which is the Greek for new, so new God, which is Sephiroth's goal. He wants to become a god, he wants to become infinite, eternal, he wants to become the Ein Sof himself, which he thinks he can do by manipulating the kingdom. But that's where Sephiroth's blind spot is, because he can't see the crown, which is like the singular point of consciousness. That's in Kabbalah what they say is God before he's manifested into any other forms. This is like the equivalent of, this is Kingdom Hearts, baby. This is the part of the life stream where people aren't individuals. Again, Aerith helps people stop being individualized in the life stream to become a whole part of it, to let go of their identity and just, float as the whole in a whirly-derby state of blissfulness and selflessness, which are qualities, of course, Sephiroth is very far from having. And that's why he can't become the Ein Sof, the ultimate manifestation on this Kabbalistic tree. And what I'm proposing in this video and what I'm getting at is that Sephiroth, inadvertently, by the way he appears in the story in the original, the timing, the pacing, and the things that he does, he actually teaches Cloud all of the other 9 Sephiroths. And I made a video on this before, I'll leave a link in the description. Cloud has a spiritual awakening. I did this a while ago. It's no coincidence right at the end of FF7, there's a beam of light and Cloud's talking about how he can actually finally understand what the live stream's about, how he can reunite with Aerith. Yeah, I mean, this boy getting lit the hell up at the end. You know, he can perceive the infinite. That's why he's not scared of dying. He comes to a peace and understanding with what the live stream is. And again, the Kabbalistic equivalent is Ein Sof, God before he manifests in any forms. And in fact, while still bearing with me, because I'm by no means an expert on Kabbalah stuff, I've just had to do a ton of research for it. It's no coincidence that there is even a mathematical formulation of the Ein Sof that they've represented with this symbol. This here, check it out. Look. Do you recognize it? Well, you should, because I don't think it's any coincidence that in Sephiroth's final summoning, boom, there we go. Very similar. And of course, this is part of the game where Sephiroth is taking on his one-winged angel form. He thinks he's about to ascend to godhood, and again, this is where Square Enix, I just love the way they do it. They always take religion and they show it in a backwards, misaligned kind of way. Sephiroth looked at the other most predominant yet opposite part of the Kabbalistic tree of life, and he saw that as the ultimate goal, as the ultimate top manifestation that he could embody, and by that he blinded himself. And then it was Aerith who came along. Now, the other person's video said that they believe the other Sephiroths represented the characters of FF7. Like, one of the Sephiroths is actually called Tiferet, and that is the Sephiroth of beauty and compassion. Two things Cloud definitely gets from teeth. You know, you could say that Aerith brought loving kindness and mercy, Chesed. We could say Barrett taught him Gavura, which was power and judgment, you know, which kind of encompasses like determination and forcefulness. Maybe Red was Hod, majesty and splendor. Maybe even bloody Bugenhagen was like Chakra, which is wisdom. You know, all these different characters definitely taught Cloud these different traits. But I would argue so as equally did Sephiroth. By the Masamune appearing the way it did and send them on their journey, you could say that gave Cloud discipline. Trying to make him kill Aerith and him having to stop, maybe mercy. The Sephiroth called Netchak or Neatzak, probably said it wrong, definitely taught by Sephiroth, triumph and endurance. I mean, it's even because Sephiroth is trying to manipulate the live stream that Cloud even has to learn as much as he does and interact with it as much as he does, which gives him banal understanding of it. Sephiroth's wheel was playing a huge role, but it came in a very precise way, in a slow-paced, very unique, calculated kind of way that after every interaction with Sephiroth, not only did it really serve to build up the anticipation of when he arrived, the threat that you can't see is always far more terrifying in your imagination. We got that, and in between each one of those encounters there would then be huge arcs of just Cloud and the gang, no Sephiroth, no Jenova, and it was in those times that we would see the fallout of that last interaction and how it would go on to transform Cloud in certain ways. Taking him from, and that's why I love the demo, and Cloud's sassy, emotionless, slightly rude arsehole persona, he goes from being such a hollow person. He's selfish, he's narcissistic, he has very few values or compassion or care for anything. That's how we see him go from that Cloud to the fully rounded character who, by the end of FF7, again, he's hit his checkpoint of awakening where he can see things bigger than himself. Now he actually wants to care for the planet. He wants to save it. He's not just doing it for the paycheck. And I just get a sense from the remake that if we're already talking about reunion, if he's already saying Cloud's name, though granted, in this, Cloud swings his sword and Sephiroth disappears. So we definitely got versions from what we've seen in the remake where he's just in Cloud's head and he's like not really there, but then there seems like there is a version like this scene here. What the hell? Sephiroth actually cuts the bridge. This must be the Shinra building when they first see Jenova. Again, Sephiroth's not there. He's now cutting the bridge. He's even crossing swords with Cloud. They are starting the rivalry early, and I don't mind that, taking more of a defined identity on like he did in Advent Children. In fact, I'm kind of excited. I'm excited to see where Square Enix takes Sephiroth. I think it leaves open so much more opportunity to explore things with him and flesh them out. And give us new shocks with that we never experienced again. I said there's no point in trying to shock us with the old way he was done. But at the same time, I hope they don't forget the core of how Sephiroth portrays himself in the story. I hope they don't get lost in a whirlwind of poster boys sort of fan servicing. We're bringing him in sooner because shit, the bed. People want to see Sephiroth and we want money. I hope you're doing it for more than that, Square, and I feel like they probably are. It's just Sephiroth, he can't lose that subtlety, that sort of dark threat feel that while you don't always have to see him or even need to see him, it always sort of lingered and lurked. And they always did clever ways to do it, like even the Midgazolem, when it's impaled, like who did that? They add mystery and elusiveness, and I feel like those are all very important building blocks into what made Cloud and Sephiroth the polar opposite and yet the same people that they are. And I think that's what made the final showdown, oh my god, which it might be like 2 or 3 years before we had to get to that point, but I'm done speculating. I could waffle in on this all day. There was so much else here with this Kabbalah lore. Leaving off on one, for example, like the Sephiroth are organized into 3 discrete columns, and these 3 columns, you've got 3 of them which are fathers and 3 of them which are mothers. So you've got a father aspect and a mother aspect. And these columns, they represent things like mildness, mercy, and severity. All things that Sephiroth are not balanced in at all. And you could even see like Hojo and Genova, a father and a mother aspect who, rather than guide him towards the Kether, the top, the crown, they're the ones who forced his descent into Malkuth, into obsession for the kingdom. I think perhaps that's when one of the tragedies comes in with Sephiroth, because the Divine Mother is one of the Sephiroths that primarily guides you through the journey the correct way. And because Sephiroth never had that mother figure, perhaps if Lucretia was still around, it wouldn't have gone down the way it went down, which, I don't know, that even places more weights on Vincent's failure. Maybe none of it would happen. Maybe he wouldn't have been so ripe for the Genova manipulation. And that divine feminine figure is, ironically, also what guides Cloud. That is Aerith. Aerith is that female figure that guides and grows. And again, her final words before leaving Cloud in the ancient forest was to work on himself. To work on embodying, according to Kabbalah lore, which I'm probably thinking way more of than Square Enix actually ever did, of embodying the 10 divine channels, the 10 divine aspects of what makes a human being complete. I thought that was pretty cool, but let me know what you think, guys. How are you feeling about Sephiroth, all these new appearances that he seems to be making in weird new places he never was? How far do you think they could or should go with evolving this guy's character? Let me know in the comment section below. Until the next video. Kupo!